We're joined by a public law expert, Richard Calland, who has written an interesting piece, Richard, about basically summing up your take on what is going on right now. Is it your view that the fight is indeed picking up speed?
Clearly it is, because the evidence that has been coming before the Zondo Commission, before Christmas and after Christmas, has shown, I think, the scope, the depth of the state capture project and the extent to which very serious levels of corruption have undermined the integrity of a whole range of government institutions and undermined the public financial management system as a whole. Now, clearly, there is a clamour now for action to be taken as a response to that allegations, these various pieces of evidence. But there are two things to note, I think. The first, of course, is that the Commission is not a court of law, and so it is not yet in any way making findings at this stage. It is simply receiving the evidence as part of its pursuit of truth in order to form a diagnostic view, a diagnosis of what happened and why. The second thing to note, however, is that commissions are, in a sense, political as well as legal, and there is nothing to stop either the President or the government taking action as a response to what is being revealed in the Commission, or indeed the various institutions of the National Prosecuting Authority, the Hawks and so on, from conducting their own investigations triggered as a result of what is being revealed in front of Deputy Chief Justice Zondo.
Well, interesting you say that, because there's been some criticism of state law enforcement agencies that they are moving at a snail's pace, if they are moving at all. But on the other hand, I also had an argument from one academic last week who was saying President Ramaphosa can't really move or get these law enforcement agencies to do what some people are saying they should be doing, because to do so would be tantamount to him interfering.
Well, that's right. It's not within the power or the authority of the President to interfere with the prosecutorial process. It's up to the agencies of the National Prosecuting Authority, the Hawks and so on, to determine their own course of action. That doesn't mean that they can operate at a snail's pace. It doesn't mean that they can simply sit idly by and do nothing. Their job is to prosecute, to investigate, and then where they find sufficient evidence to prosecute. The question is, why would they wait? And they may have good reason, in which case they may have to show that good reason. But I think the public would expect that as a result of this huge range of pieces of evidence that have now been adduced in front of the Zondo Commission, that at the very least the prosecuting authorities are investigating ahead of making decisions about whether to charge people or not, whether they be high-ranking officials or ANC members or not. Of course, politically, the President has his own conundrum to face. He, as the head of the executive, has a responsibility to respond to the underlying structural and other defects that have been revealed as a result of the state capture project. Because after all, we wouldn't even need a Zondo Commission had the various state agencies not been captured and not done and not failed to do their job in the first place. However, the President may take the view, for good reason, that he should wait patiently, as perhaps we all should, to the very end of the Commission to reveal the findings and recommendations of the Zondo Commission. Because after all, this is a narrative that has still to complete its journey. And at the end of that process, Deputy Chief Justice Zondo must advise the government on the action that he thinks they should take as a result of what has transpired.
Well, there's a view that perhaps the reason the President would rather have the Commission continuing doing what it's doing without him being seen to be, agitating for a little more speed and so on, is precisely because he doesn't have everybody he needs to have behind him. on this one. That even though you hear everyone these days from the ANC saying, let's go ahead and people should cooperate with the commission and go and present evidence and so on, half of them don't actually mean what they're saying. They are saying it because it would be difficult to, for them to at least publicly dissociate themselves with this project. But the reality is that they are not so keen on it.
Well, Vuyo, your question, if I may so, rightly touches on the underlying political factors that are at play here, inevitably perhaps. This is a highly politically as well as legally charged environment. The president has an election to win for his party and for himself later this year. And the balance of power within the ANC is, of course, very delicate. And the Zuma faction and many of the people implicated in front of the Zondo Commission are still alive and kicking. Their political ambitions have not yet been vanquished, as it were. So he has to act very carefully. And I think you're right to suggest that he may well be content to let things play out in front of the Commission, assuming, rightly, I think, that those people in that faction are being damaged and therefore weakened by the evidence that is coming out, that it may be putting them onto the back foot and to some extent constraining their ability to cause him difficulties and create disunity within the ruling party in the run-up to the election.
Richard Calland, that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Thanks very much for your time and insight. He is, of course, a public law expert. He wrote a piece over the past couple of days which was actually interrogating this very question.